right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started, you guys. Welcome. Before we start the show, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. We still have people coming in, but we did sell out this event. And so I just want to thank you guys for showing up. This is the first that LDH, Lez Do Houston, has done an event like this. And for the cast in the back, these panelists, this is the first time some of them have been on a panel. So I just want you guys to snap it up for their bravery, their courage, sharing their hearts and sharing a part of their lives with you. This is a completely for us, by us event. So everyone from the cast and the crew are all queer people of color. And you guys paid to be here, so that means you value hearing queer people of color speak. And we see that as a revolutionary act. So please snap it up for the cast, the crew, everybody working in the back. All right, so for folks who do not know me already, my name is Tamaria McDaniel. I'm one of the founders of Lez Do Houston, with my beautiful partner in the back, Dana. Dana, wave to the people. Snap it up for my baby. We started Lez Do Houston in September of 2022. We wanted to build this community for queer women and femmes of color. We wanted to have a space for us to have intentional friendships and relationships, and Lez Talk is an extension of that. So this is going to be the first of many in this series. We're going to have a lot of deep conversations, and this is our opportunity to grab the mic and speak with our own voices. So as the people share their stories with you, please be kind. Receive the energy the same way that it's given to you. And I think we're going to have a really great show. We're going to have an hour of discussion, and then we're going to have Q&A for about 10 minutes. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody on here, snap it up, please. Get us started. This side, snap it up. Panelists. All right, let's go. Let's talk. All right. So for our first question, panelists, I would like everyone to answer. We're going to kick off the discussion just talking about what is self-love and what does that look like. So I'd like to hear from everyone on the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antoinette Winters. My pronouns are she and her. So for me, self-love is about having an appreciation for self, a positive regard for self, an affinity for yourself, where you see yourself in high regard, and it's not narcissism, and it's not selfish. So we're going to break that down and demystify that loving on yourself is selfish, because I'm not sure if you guys grew up like me, doing anything for yourself was kind of like called selfish or something like that, but it's not. It's actually self-full, and the more love that we can have for ourselves, the more love that we can extend to others. So for me, self-love looks like prioritizing my needs, identifying the things that brings me joy, identifying the things that gives me peace. Also, it means setting boundaries for myself and others, so not allowing people into my energy that's toxic. It also means, valuing my time. Also means taking care of myself. So self-love involves acts of self-care and rituals, which I have several, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. That's that.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Duran, and I'm she/they from New York. And self-love for me is when you pour into yourself. You have to make yourself a priority, and a lot of times we lack the motivation, and that's where sometimes for me, discipline steps in. So a lot of times that discipline will keep me honest and keep me making sure that I hold myself accountable to protecting my peace. And that's against anyone and anything, including family, friends, whoever does not fit, and they don't add to my happiness. They're no longer here. They're here, but they're not with me. But at the same time, self-love is holding yourself accountable and making sure you're checking yourself. Just the same way a narcissistic person or a gaslighter person can say something, you can do those things to yourself. So now you have to check yourself on how you speak to yourself and be positive.
Hello everybody, my name is is Trinity Stardust. I go by TriStar. My pronouns is whatever you see that particular day. For real. And so self-love to me is that the part of selfishness that is required. Because I believe selfishness is required to love yourself, hence self, right? And what does that look like? For me, it starts and it ends with boundaries, period. That's it, period. You know, no matter who it is, you know, my children, my mother, whoever, because you cannot do for others, like that is, like I used to think that was a cliche, but it's absolutely true. You have to take care of yourself before you can be productive and taking care of others.
And hi everyone, my name is Manon Pierre-Jerome, and my pronouns are she, her. And to me, self-love, including everything that we've heard so far, also involves doing things that you necessarily may not want to do, but does serve you in the end. For example, sometimes we can get really stuck in our comfort zone, and comfort, to a degree, doesn't always serve us. Sometimes comfort is wanting to stay inside for the fourth day in a row, and when you know that you should maybe go outside for a walk or into the sunshine, take a shower, you know, that gets into mental health type things, making sure that you are brushing your teeth. And I would also say that it's not just about productivity, so self-love isn't just in the things that you do, but it's also in how you interact with yourself, the thoughts that you have with yourself, and I'll expand on that later on as well.
Okay. How y'all doing? My name is Sherry Leroy. My pronouns are she, her, even though people like to call me he because they just see, you know, the low-cut fade before they see the breasts and all that, so yeah. Self-love to me is, I mean, by definition, exactly what it says, loving thyself, you know what I mean? I also think it's when you're choosing yourself over, I guess, you're choosing yourself over others and learning how to, I guess, compartmentalize. I guess when people have crossed boundaries that you set for them and yourself, you know what I mean? So I think it's like an ongoing struggle. It's not like it's something you learn. It ain't something that you just know off top or whatever. So it just takes a lot of experience and personal relationships and stuff like that, so, yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is T. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a very spiritual person. For me, self-love is very much in tune with me being okay with my spirit. How do I fare dealing with other people? How am I treating other people? How am I letting myself be treated? Staying true to myself in the face of adversity. We live a very hard life where we're constantly seen as adverse, sometimes even perverse, and that can wear on you as a person. And I know I'm a good person, and I always try to keep that center focus of who I am, and my higher power, which has to be God, but whoever your higher power, I try to keep that focus and that center of who I am, and let that guide me, because the world is cruel. And so in essence, I think that staying true to yourself, inside yourself, spending time alone, reflecting on your interactions with others, your relationships, is my idea of what self-love is.
Thank you. I also want to answer that question too. For me, my personal journey with self-love has been about breaking up with the idea of being a quote-unquote good girl. I feel like a lot of us, we know what that is. So a good girl has to have her hair a certain way, just to look a certain way. It's a lot of performance. It can be tied to achievement, being obedient. If a good girl is wrong, like, you don't say anything about it. If you're being abused, you don't make other people uncomfortable by speaking up about that. And so as I came into my life, into my journey, and realizing that, I'm queer, can a good girl be queer? I experienced abuse. How does a good girl speak on that? And so as I came into loving myself, it's been about, divorcing myself that I'm not gonna be a good girl. A part of me being loving myself is being accepting who I am. And it involves acts of rebellion sometimes. So, next question for our panelists. When did you first learn self-love? Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
It's funny because, not funny now. Funny now, not funny then. I don't think I ever paid attention to what self-love was until I had a pivotal moment in my journey where I was not healed at all. And there was a song by Jasmine Sullivan playing called Stupid Girls. And the minute I heard that song, I got goosebumps right now. That was me. That was me, because people find people like you to manipulate, and I always thought of unhealed people in two ways. It's either the prey or the predator. The prey is what I used to be. I used to allow stuff to happen to me all the time. All because based on how I love them. The predator, the person that knows you love them, they're the ones getting that part of you, manipulating you to doing things, making you into something that you're not. So once I learned that, I was very easily influenced to change that part and learn about loving myself.
I'll say that I learned, unfortunately, I'm an 80s baby. So, let's talk about that.
Good point right there.
Yeah. So, and it was really hard in my household. I'm from, at the time, my mother's from New York, so I grew up in Staten Island. And unfortunately, I learned what not to do at home. That was how I learned self-love, because I could clearly see abuse. And self-abuse, not like I was being abused, but I was seeing my people abusing themselves. And so I learned what not to do. And I stand by that still today. I learned what not to do. I think about what they did and I do the complete opposite. Because I got, cycles and stuff, that's a part of self-love as well. Breaking cycles from my children, So it was important for me to learn what not to do.
So, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure, Tony. When did you first learn self-love?
So for me, I did not learn self-love until I was well into my 30s. My childhood was horrific. There were times where, and I'll say this, I fought to survive. And there were times where that literally felt like I was fighting for my life. Literally. There were, of course, all the abuse you can think of. And if anyone needs to step out, take care of yourself. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, emotional abuse. And the people that was in charge of taking care of me, my peace with my past is that they just didn't know how to care for me. They didn't know how to protect me. So my journey with the self-love started in my 30s when I went to counseling. I thought I had it all together. I was a social worker, I finished my degree, and then I went to counseling, and she said, "Oh, you don't love yourself." I'm like, mic drop. I do love myself. What you mean I don't love myself? Stop playing. And then it took me about 5 years to figure out, oh shit, I did not love myself. Why? Because in my childhood, there were so many things, so many situations that happened that kind of put me against myself, right? So it's like when you grow up in domestic violence and stuff like that, you get that shame. And so that shame feels nasty and it feels dirty, and you start to feel that from the inside. So as an adult, I had to separate the shame from me. Like that shame and that trauma, yeah, it happened to me, but it's not me. My trauma is not my story. It's a part of my story, but it's not my full story. Amen.
Yes, preparing for today made me realize that I cannot say that I love myself, but I also can't say that I absolutely do not love myself. I can say that I care about myself in this present moment, and I find that when did I first learn self-love? I could say that the journey really started when I started making active decisions to start doing things that would help me age well. Because when we look at aging, sometimes we think, oh, everything is just supposed to fall apart, when in reality, if you keep movement in your life, if you keep nutrition in your life, when you keep certain things, there are things that are out of our control, but there are things that are in our control. And I know that when I was in college, when I got to university, I taught myself how to stop eating to the point of pain. And that was a big act of self-love, because in my childhood, of course, for some of us, your parents say, like, eat everything on the plate. Why are we being served adult portions? That's the first question. But through that, I started making decisions to start making smoothies and start getting pedicures and start doing things that I can say I am very focused on making sure I take care of future me, but I am still learning how to make sure I'm also doing those things for present me as well.
What was the question again? I just want a refresher, to make sure I'm on,
Sherry, when did you first learn self-love?
I feel like for me, I started learning self-love well into my 30s. It took losing, I want to say, friendships that were over a decade long, and a past relationship I had or whatever. It made me start thinking what do I want out of everything? Because I lived vicariously through my friendships at one point in time. And I didn't have time to think about me, because I wanted to help my friends solve their issues, relationship issues, all that stuff, whatever. So I was secondary. I didn't even know that I knew I had issues. I didn't know that it was anything to like work on. I thought it was just, that's me, that's how I live my life or whatever. But I'm here to be, the untrained therapist for the people around me and stuff like that. I'm secondary. But then I just started asking questions like, I remember when I was with my ex or whatever, I didn't want to end the relationship because the women in her family they were all kind of like either divorcees or they weren't coupled or anything like that. And I didn't want her to also be, like the women in her family. So I just kind of was like, let me stick this out or whatever, because, I don't want her to, I don't know. I was more worried about her feelings than my own or whatever. But yeah, it took losing people or whatever in order to start asking myself questions about me.
All right, so going into that, first learning about self-love, how was self-love modeled for you? And if it wasn't modeled for you, what was your breakthrough?
I will say that self-love was just what I thought I was doing until I had to do it. I was forced to do it. I walked into a doctor's office on New Year's Day, the day after or something, and he said, Happy New Year, Trinity, but you have MS. I woke up one morning and I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. I thought I was paralyzed. And you know, as a mom, it is hard to practice self-love. Now, I've known about self-love. I thought I was doing that and all of those things until diagnosis. And then I realized I'm not doing it. Because if I was doing it, myself would be taken care of, and I would be able to take care of my children. However, I woke up and couldn't walk. So that was that to me, I felt guilty. Like when I couldn't walk that day, the only thing I thought about is I gotta be up before my children get home. Like somebody got to cook dinner, you know? Not forget the part that I can't feel my legs. You know, I was just trying to worry about my kids. So I would say that I thought I was practicing self-love for a very long time until I found out I wasn't. And now I literally cannot take care of anyone else until I take care of myself. Because my body will shut down and we will be stuck in that bed and I'll be looking at it crazy because I can't get up. But I brought it on myself because I have to pace myself. Literally, I have to think every day, do I have enough energy for this? Is this going into tomorrow? Tomorrow's reserve of energy? Because that's how I end up getting stuck on the couch. I'm pushing and pushing and pushing, and then I know I abuse myself because now I'm stuck, right? So I literally have to take care of self now, and I don't know that I would have learned that if I wasn't forced to, if my back wasn't against the wall, you know? So yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
I have to say that self-love was not modeled for me at any point in my childhood. When you are born to, I'm not gonna, and I stress it, I'm not saying all, because obviously there's people in our community who are growing up in very well-rounded households, loving parents, accepting parents, in every decade throughout history. There have been people who are just going to accept the children, right? They're just going to love the children. But for me, my experience has been that I had a mother who was very feminine, and she didn't know what to do with me. And I had a father who, while he enjoyed having his little tomboy daughter follow him around, he still tried to raise me under a feminine concept because he didn't know what really to do with my masculinity. So there was no one to model for me, and there's no one to teach you in a heterosexual household how to deal with homosexual issues. It's just, they're not equipped to really know. All my father could really say is, you're going to have a hard life. You're a triple minority. It's going to be hard for you, you know. And he was right. I think the most progressive thing that my father ever did was when I was around like 15, he worked with a woman who was like very masculine centered, and he took me to a park and he had me walk around with her and tell her like how I felt and what kind of feelings I was having. And at this point in my life, I was very suicidal. I didn't have any reference for who I could even be as an adult. I didn't even envision a life as an adult. Because I didn't see anybody who resembled me in media. And when they did, it was always a laugh. I don't know if any of you remember, because I was born in '79, and I cut it short, but there was a movie called It's Pat that came out years ago. And I think it was even 2011 somebody made that joke reference to me. So, that's really the life you live when you don't fit into either one of these gender constructs. So you have to find a way to create your own self-love, your own, be okay with your own identity.
I can also identify with T. I didn't realize that was a good, not only was I also not raised to be feminine, I just kind of took care of myself, and I don't know which one of you mentioned it, but I grew up seeing like a lot of self-hatred things. Like I have substance abusers in my family and stuff. So either they weren't around me doing stuff or whatever, but I knew they were taking care of their issues in other ways, like I was familiar with it, I knew it was. But that's one thing I always say that, me and my sister had a conversation about it one day, and we realized that we were, when they say latchkey kids, like my sister said that the reason why we went in the house is because everybody else was already at home. So we didn't go in the house because the streetlights came on. Everybody else went in the house because they were supposed to. Our mom was probably, you know, either at work or still at school. She graduated from TSU. And I mean, I appreciate, you know, the sacrifices she made and stuff like that, but I really feel like she didn't raise me to be a woman or teach me what femininity was or anything like that. So I just kind of, I don't know if I would say I was hyper independent, but I pretty much kind of took care of myself. That's just kind of what we did. But I don't know, I'm still trying to, you know, I'm getting more comfortable with myself. I didn't see me getting as old as I am now. Like I'm looking at 40, like, you know, like bucket. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be 36 this year, and I'm just like tripping out like I never saw this before. I never saw what kind of woman I would be growing up or anything like that. So, yeah, I didn't have too many good examples, basically.
All right. Who taught you not to love yourself?
I feel like, unfortunately, and I heard you say a lot of like, we have to break a lot of generational curses, right, that we have on ourselves. And you know, you heard that term, ignorance is bliss, right? That's what we always used to say when our parents said some, they had no business saying, oh my God, that's a big, you know. But because of that, it was never, everyone taught me what it wasn't. Because everyone participated. Family, friends, because I get it, they're unhealed, but it doesn't justify the damage. But me growing up, I noticed that everyone played a part in it. And once I isolated myself and I saw everything that was happening, I was able to assess and give myself the love that I needed. But it was at home where it was never taught.
I want to say that, okay, so either you're going to like me or you're going to hate me after I say this, but I'm saying it. Okay, so I first experienced, wait, what question?
We on rejection.
Let me make sure before I go there. No, we go there.
Who taught you not to love yourself?
Oh, okay.
Or what
Take
taught
it
you not
down
to
there.
love yourself?
All right. Let's go there. Let's go there. Okay. Who taught me not reject? Okay. Who taught me not to love myself? Like I said, I learned what not to do. So I saw what not to do. I was just grateful. I thought my family was succeeding. You know, I mean, even though everybody's on drugs and doing their thing, you know, I thought they were succeeding because I wasn't as unfortunate as my neighbor, you know. Like I said, I grew up in Staten Island in the projects, and my neighbor, I got lucky because I felt like, because my mother loved me enough not to sell me. Because my next door neighbor was getting sold by her mom. And so I thought I was fortunate, you know, in that my mother loved me more than your mother loves you. I would never say that to her, of course, but in my spirit I felt like my mother loves me more than the rest of me. She doing the best that she could do. And while that's true, because she did do the best that she could do, it's unspeakable things that happened to my mother, right? So she is doing the best, she did do the best that she could do, and I did the best that I could do with my children. However, parents can only do with what they know, you know? And unfortunately, we don't learn until we get much older, you know? And so, yeah, just learning what not to do and comparing myself to my neighbor and the other people that I was growing up alongside with in the projects. It's like, I'm a little better off than you because I'm not getting sold and my mother loves me. And that was so far from what love is. let alone self-love. Tony?
You know, recently I've been reading this book by Bill Hooks. It's called, what is it? All About Love. Yes, All About Love. And in her book, she talks about how our society today is loveless. There's a lot of lovelessness. And it made me think a lot about, like, you know, our generation of parents. I think most of us are around similar ages. I'm an 80s baby as well.
All right.
And then, you know, there's some 90s up in here, but y'all got some of the 80s parenting too. You know what I'm saying? Like, our parents just didn't know emotional intelligence. You know, we've evolved as a culture today, but they just didn't know, they didn't have those tools, you know? If you think back, look at their old pictures, did they smile? They didn't even smile. They didn't show personality, emotion, nothing. You know, it was just flat. And that's what parenting was for me, like just flat. Not a lot of emotional intelligence or love. You know, the question is, who taught you? Who taught you not to love yourself? My dad, too, my dad. So, yeah, nobody taught me how to love myself. I had to learn and teach myself when I realized that, I think at one point when I was 16, I did have thoughts of suicide. Okay? If you need to step out, please take care of yourself. I did have thoughts of suicide. I felt so bad. I felt so like I wasn't good enough. And then when I think about that time in my life, it's because I was being fucking abused. Like I was being fucking beat. Like, how can you love yourself if you're fucking being beaten, right? So that's where that suicide, but was that me? No, that wasn't me. That was what I was experiencing. So, you know, I just want to say, and then you can recover from that. You can recover from that. You can, and I know we're going to get to it, so I don't want to get too far ahead. It's tempting, but yeah.
Man, go ahead.
Yes, so sitting here made me realize, yes, parents, and then it turns into you not loving yourself, but also society. As a plus size woman, I have experienced such rejection before realizing my sexuality. So much rejection from men, getting feedback of, oh, I didn't know that was in there. I didn't know you were worth it. I didn't know you were enough. And that was always in there. I was always enough. But especially with having short hair, it kind of gets into this, like I'm femme and I'm hyper femme, I love femininity. And I struggle at times with even feeling like I'm enough when I'm just told by society that when I'm interacted with in a way of, you know, oh, are you worth talking to? Are you worth spending time with? Because, you know, when you're plus size, you're told that society sees you as a non-functioning member of society who is a slob. And that key part, non-functioning member of society, so it gets into ableism as well. Some people will never be that definition of healthy, will never be able to lose weight, and to say that that is what you should always strive for just gets into some other things. So society told me at large that I wasn't enough, and I had to realize that I am worth everything just as I am right now. And because even as recently as the end of February, I was daydreaming about how I'm changing and blossoming into this person that I'm really proud of. And when I was imagining that, I was also imagining myself as a thin person. And I had to catch that thought. And it was kind of the first time that I said, no, I can't keep thinking about myself that way. So.
The T.
The question was,
Who taught you not to love yourself?
okay, I'm gonna backdoor with Manning. I'm gonna also go with, but I did have direct examples in my household. My mom was, like I told you, she was not your ordinary feminine woman. This woman was what I like to call ultra feminine. So, you know, the one who got to go get her hair and nails done every 2-3 weeks, not not stepping out the house without being done up, all that. And she had me to raise. I'm also adopted, so it did cause some push and pull, because you're trying to change who I am, you know, it's not my genetics that run through you, so, you know. But she really, I could tell, you know, to her, I could tell she really wanted, you know, a little feminine little girl to really, you know, her little counterpart and everything, you know what I'm saying? And so I always feel like that disappointment to her and never being able to measure up, even though I was making straight A's, even though I never got in trouble, you know, I was a good kid, you know, I never could do enough to fill that void of being somebody that I couldn't be. So, but I back to it about society, because yes, we all deal with our issues in our household, but the greater, I think, threat at large is society. That's why we're all really sitting in this room. Because society, like I said earlier, paints such a picture of us. And I'm here because I don't want the youth to internalize that. It's getting better every year. But at the core of it, we're still in a society that says that we are perverted. At the base of it, the core of it. We are not the norm. We are divergent. We are, you know, rebellious. We won't fall in line. And you have to breathe that. You have to know where you are. You have to inhale that and understand that to be able to walk in your freedom, in your truth. Because you know you're going against, you're bucking the status quo. Society has one picture for each, and you can say everybody has this argument that, you know, the gender roles and fashion and all this, but at the end of the core, you got to realize where you are. We're in a Christian, you know, Republican dominated, you know, basically society that's like women, where you look a certain way, the construct is there. There can be some leeway, but the basic construct is there. Anytime they want to wipe the board and say all that stuff will go away, we're going back to the basic construct. And there's no construct that says that a masculine woman is attractive in this society. There's no construct that says that we are worthy, that we are, where is it? I want to see it. Even when you see little Snoops and whoever on these TV shows, where's their backstory? Who are they? Are they just some girl in a gang running around a bunch of dudes shooting people? Like, who is she? Where does she come from? I'm tired of being invisible and walking around with people who we're everywhere, but nobody knows anything about us. And you get looked down by women in public, you get looked down by men in public. You know, where's your place? And I feel what feminine women got to go through, because basically masculine women, that's why I'm here. Like, we in the same space, we battling the same battles. Because feminine women have to appear to this construct that they made that's impossible to achieve. And it's still impossible to achieve for the masculine female, because I'm never going to be there. I want my validation, you know what I'm saying?
You got it.
Okay, so we just talked about, you know, experiencing rejection, experiencing abuse often at the hands of people who are closest to us, dealing with society's ideas of who we are and who we're supposed to be. How did you guys on the panel learn to love yourselves past that initial rejection from either family or society and feeling invisible?
I learned that you cannot take things personal. A lot of times people get lost in the sauce, right? They get lost in the sauce because they think, oh, that person don't like me, I like her, him, her, they, them, whoever you like. They don't like you back. A lot of times people take that as a negative. A lot of times if somebody has a type, you can't get mad because the same thing happens to you. You get people you like and people you don't like. So you can't be picky and choose, but it happens to all of us. So don't take it personal because it's based on their beliefs, based on their limiting beliefs on themselves, not on you, that they take out on you. And also what I noticed was that at the end of the day, that when the rejection comes, we internalize it so much that we get lost. So how you keep that up? Self-love. Get yourself out of there, get out of the house. There's there's ways to do it, but a lot of times that is where we get lost at.
Okay.
Now we're back.
Give it to him, Tracy.
We're back to the question. So here we go. You're either gonna probably like me or hate me. So here we go. I experienced rejection first and foremost. Because let me remind you, my parents were worried about, is she on drugs? She not on drugs? Okay, well, whatever. Let the bitch live, you know? But, okay, but the church. Here we go.
Talk about it.
Okay. So the church is where I first experienced rejection. And 2 times over, because at 16, I'm trying to figure out my sexuality, right? And how, because I noticed what's happening, and I'm like, but how do you know that if you haven't tried, you know, to be what you're supposed to be? I tried. That girl got pregnant. Okay, so that part. So the church, as soon as I started showing, I was going to church like the teen things, like the teen meetings or teen Bible study or whatever. Okay, but when I started showing, it was like, okay, well, we don't want you to influence the other girls. So we're gonna have to ask you to leave because you're showing. And then, so okay, I had the baby, I'm not showing anymore. Okay, man, my mom's like, we're going back to church. And I'm like, here we go again, you know? And so we go back to church. But now that it's confirmed, now that it's confirmed, now I'm androgynous. Some days I wake up and I'm wearing Jordans and basketball shorts and a hat cocked to the side, you know? But then some days I got on a dress, right? And so that one day I wore them Jordans back to the church. And they was like, okay, once again, we don't want you influencing the rest of the teenagers here.
Wow.
Because we're contagious, right? And so I was rejected yet again from the church, right? First, because I'm a teenage mom. Second time I got rejected is because I presented masculine that particular Sunday. You know, some people, I just don't feel like wearing a dress sometimes, right? And then after that, it's like, oh, okay, but we can get that spirit out of her, right? So then came to pray the gay away. So I had to love myself through that rejection. And I still am loving myself through that rejection. Because I live in this neighborhood. Yes. And there are over 100 churches in this neighborhood. Okay? And not one will marry us. Not one. Wow. Did you know that churches are governed by laws? Right? And so I just got a big grant to have this big gay wedding in the hood. Because I want them to see us, because I believe that if the black church, okay, if the black and brown church took a couple of steps in the right direction, we wouldn't feel so rejected. Because that sets the tone for most of our neighborhoods in brown and black neighborhoods. The church was the original community center. Where do you go when you can't pay a bill? Where do you go when you need clothes? And so forth, you know? So that's where I'm continuing to love myself through rejection. I do community work and nonprofit work, and I work in this community, but you can't celebrate me if I wanted to get married. So now I'm going around marrying gay people now. So if you want to get married, let me know. I got ordained in spite of.
Congratulations, that's awesome for our community. So for me, can you repeat the question?
How do you love yourself after experiencing rejection?
Okay. Yeah, I got this. So, for me, I had to get real with myself. Like, I really had to look myself in the mirror, right? Like, naked and unashamed, like all of me, and realize and recognize that I am the love that I seek. I am the love that I seek. And also the other important point, y'all gotta get this. The other important point is, it's not outside of yourself. I had to learn that it wasn't seeking love outside of me. I was seeking love everywhere else but here. I was seeking love in relationship. I was seeking love in friendship. I was seeking love in my family. So then I started, I was a people pleaser since the age of young, because there was like drug abuse in my family. So like being 8, I had so much love to give. I had to take care of my family. I wanted to like take care of everybody. And then I grew up with that same perspective. Oh, I want to take care of everybody. And then forget to take care of me. So I had to learn. Self-love is prioritizing your needs and putting yourself first, period. And if you can't do that, you gotta get there, and you gotta get there even before you give love to your children. You have to take care of this first. Someone said earlier, we can't pour from an empty cup. So my cup is constantly being full. And when I made that realization that the love that I seek was me, then that was everything. That's how I love myself past the rejection that I've experienced in my life. I love myself past all the negative things that were said to me, all the negative things that I've said to myself. I love myself past the pain, past the hurt, past all of the defeat and failure, because I am the love I seek, and my love feels so good to me.
Sherry, 1 second.
I guess I can add, y'all kind of, like, y'all like tough acts to follow, so it's like, I'm gonna come over here and say something, and it's not gonna be all as exciting and stuff like y'all. So, shoot. But like the last question, I guess I'm gonna kind of tie them together or whatever. Who taught me how to love myself, or not to love myself, would be, I want to say kids. I was bullied for, I want to say from elementary, kind of almost into high school. I was bullied for different reasons. So, early on, I'm bullied for being the fat kid and all this other stuff. Then we started getting into middle school and stuff like that. I'm fat, but I'm playing sports, so I'm getting, at least I'm on the team and I'm trying and all this other stuff, whatever. And then I guess when we get into high school, it's now more, an identity thing. Like, when you kind of, you dress feminine one day, and then you dress in, tomboys the next day. So like, when you gonna tell us, stuff like that. So, you know what? I've always kind of had that though. It's like you kind of know. You kind of know something's different because you're not like the girls in your class, and you kind of identify more with the boys, but they ain't really fucking with you like that either. Not really. Like I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I told you, but I don't know. I found out everything about myself before, like, any of my family or anybody else did. Like, I found out I was a fat kid, because all, kids would make fun of me and tell me that. I didn't know it was an identity thing until a boy came up to me in class, and he was like, Sherry, we took a vote, and we think you the coolest boy in class, and I'm just like, yeah, but I didn't know how to take it, you know what I'm saying? So there was always like bits and pieces there or whatever that I didn't really like understand. As far as how I overcame that, or what was the original question, like to this one?
How did you learn to love yourself after that?
It took, like I said earlier, it took like it took losing people, losing relationships, long-term friendships. And also I would be on these, like I drive trucks for a living. So I be on the road, and when I'm getting away from my partner that I don't care for, we having issues or whatever, and I'm steaming mad. I'm doing voice, I'm doing voice messages to myself, like, she get on my nerves because this and that, and all this, and it's like, and then when you get home, it's like, oh, okay, never mind. You know what I mean? But, I think after a while, it was like you would get these little, you can feel when you're putting other people before you or whatever. Like I don't know, it bugs me, it irks me until I realize, okay, I gotta do something about this. I can't just keep, whatever. So, I don't know, I guess being honest now, I'm more inclined to tell people like, hey, I ain't trying to hurt your feelings, but I don't like this. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm starting to realize how important my feelings are and stuff. So,
So, we talked about facing rejection from places where we're supposed to find community, like the church. We've gotten bullying happening at school, like friendships are kind of the initial part of our community growing up, experiencing it in your family. So, who did you have to forgive, if you believe in forgiveness, on your path to self-love?
I would say I had to forgive my parents for, they did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And when I first heard that sentence, even that I did the best I could with the tools I had, that really blew my mind. And I think that that's important. Just, if you're ever getting deep with someone, I think that's a good sentence to share, just to let people know, oh, I am doing the best I can with the tools that I have right now. But I also found that with my parents that, when I started to learn about their trauma, then that made me realize, and then that and therapy said, I remember a session with my therapist where she said, now think about your depression and how it has incapacitated you at times. And now imagine raising 3 kids. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was, and I'm still working to forgive my parents, very much so. But that was a big part of who I had to forgive. And then I also had to start forgiving myself. It's not holding in that anger around all that I wasn't and all that I didn't do and all the ways in which I wish I had shown up for myself when I was in conflict with others. And that's also still something I'm very much working on.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I agree with what you said, because I had to do the same. I had to forgive. And forgiveness sometimes is linked with closure, right? A lot of times we want to say how we feel to these people or how they made us feel. They don't care. They don't care. So I learned through that to forgive them within myself and forgive myself for allowing them to do what they did to me. Because as I get older, I was like, damn, excuse my language. I allow these people to treat me like dirt. And what grows from dirt? Beautiful flowers, So at the end of the day, you have to sit with that. But is it enough for you to live with it? To forgive them and yourself without telling anybody? Of course. That's the other side of healing. The other side of healing, you don't have to tell nobody about what you're doing. You're doing it and you're standing on business on yourself. And that's what you're
Who did you have to forgive on your path to self-love?
Okay, so ultimately I would say forgiveness is myself. It's always myself. It's always myself. For, like Jen said, like allowing people to do certain things to me. Also, now that I'm aware, I still have to forgive myself as a mother, because like you think as a mother, you're supposed to do your kids first. This is what they tell us, because there's no book, right? They tell us, like, take care of your kids first. Society thinks you're supposed to take care of your kids first, this, that. So now, after diagnosis, I am forced to take care of myself first, right? So I find myself constantly having to forgive myself for taking care of myself because of what society says that I should be doing. And what I should be doing is taking care of these 3 boys before I take care of myself, right? But again, now, literally, I cannot do that, right? So I don't have a choice right? I have to forgive myself because every time I put myself before my children, it does not feel right. It doesn't feel right, but it's necessary, you know? Literally, it is necessary. And so, again, I feel like that forgiveness, even from my parents, it goes through me because I am a parent. So now I know that parents are not super models and superheroes, and they're not that, they're just people, right? And I know that my mom didn't have the tools that I now have. So I just gauge what I'm doing is, did I do better than Adele? Period. That's it for me. Because I can only aim to do better than her, right? Because I'm only working with what I know, right? And so, therefore, I have to forgive her. So if I forgive myself, I forgive my parents. Because I forgive them for not knowing, you know? And I forgive my father for abandonment because my mother was too much. And I can clearly see, maybe for some people she is.
Yeah.
Okay? However, I only get one. Right? Now he chose her. I was assigned to her. Okay? So I have to forgive myself for everything that she didn't know because I was assigned to her. I didn't choose her. He did. Right? It's probably why we don't talk today, because I remind him that he chose her. Not me.
So I would say that my forgiveness was most definitely with my mother, my adopted mother. Like I said, she wanted a feminine daughter, and she never let me forget that I was not that every day. So, but what I can say is that, to backdoor what TriStar was saying, your parents aren't superhuman. And when you're a kid, especially if you have baby boomer parents, they're very hard-nosed, very get over it, get down to business. You don't have time to be crying. Emotions are useless, X, Y, and Z. And I lost my train of thought, sorry.
So I take the time.
When I got to around 30 though, I'm 45 now, I got to around 30 and I realized that I was still clueless about a lot of stuff, and I didn't know a lot of things that I thought I had under wraps, that there was no way that my parents had it all under wraps at 30, 35. So I had to give them some grace. I still think they could have made better decisions as educated people, as people living in the world, but they had to give them some grace because, you know, we all progress at whatever pace that we're supposed to.
Sure.
Okay, I was gonna say, all right. I'm trying to make sure we got enough time and all that stuff.
I got you.
You know, I kind of, that question, like the whole forgiving people and all that type of stuff, whatever, I mean, that's fine, right? If you can do it. I think for me, because like you said, Jennifer, people don't care if you forgive them or not. Like, it's really your problem at the end of the day. So if anything, I think having compassion isn't the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of the empathy. Yes, bam, there you go, yeah. And I had to sit back and I had to think, like, oh man, you know, thinking about my parents and just thinking about the lives they lived and the time, the political, you know, issues they was going through or whatever and all that. It's like, I can't fathom being in their shoes in the time frame that they were growing up in. You know, so they made decisions they made because, like everybody said, there's no rule book to this shit. We all just kind of figuring this shit out. Some people, you know, they making the shit work out, and then some people, they gotta relearn the lesson, you know, over and over or whatever. But yeah, I try to put myself in the shoes of other people in order to get an understanding of you know, I guess how I'm showing up in the world and why is it bothering them, you know, to some type of degree or whatever. Why they have to tell me, you know, or misgender me and call me a sir and all this other type of stuff, whatever, when I got D cups, man. You know, like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, how am I walking into this establishment? Like, all you see is a haircut. You know what I'm saying? Like, that trips me out. So I just kind of look at people as, you got, like, when I feel like somebody's doing something intentionally to me or whatever, I'm like, this person just really got some shit going on in their own lives. And this is just a power fucking struggle, right? This is a power move, you know? You see me and you want to make yourself feel better about yourself, so you'll say something fucking stupid, you know? But I'm sorry, I hope y'all not too sensitive to like cussing and stuff like that, because that's like my second language. But yeah, I guess that's my form of forgiveness for people, is putting myself in their shoes and realizing that shit, we all trying to figure this out.
You got something to add? Okay. Well, I do want to like touch on that a little bit. Forgiveness for me has been personal. So as I mentioned before, I experienced sexual abuse early in my life. Like Mannon and a lot of people said on the panel today, I had to forgive my parents because they came from a cycle of trauma. And like Sherry said, like, if I went through some of the things that they went through and had to raise kids, I don't know if I would have done much better or worse. And so forgiveness for me has been about like breaking up with that hurt for myself to move on and become a better version of me. So forgiveness for me is for you. And then also, you ain't got to forgive everybody. Sometimes we do some hated shit to you. So you ain't always got to forgive that person, but like forgive yourself in that moment so you can move on and grow. So we talked about like had a journey so far. We talked about the valleys of experiencing rejection from our community, from our friends. We've learned how to love ourselves past it. Now we're a whole new person. We stepping out. How do you hold yourself accountable now that you are starting your self-love journey?
Yeah, so the way that I hold myself accountable is through mindfulness. I am a very self-aware person. I haven't studied mindfulness, but it is something that I just find that when I'm not being mindful, I feel very dissatisfied with myself. So, for example, how I said I caught that thought around who I'm turning into, and that really felt like I was starting to change neural pathways within myself. And so it's, in my opinion, it's catching patterns of how you're thinking, how you think about yourself and the way that you are in the world, and it's challenging those things. Some things that I've learned through therapy, one of them is radical acceptance. Sometimes for situations, but also for just who you are. When you're not too worried about what other people are thinking about yourself and you just radically accept yourself, oh my gosh, it's such a weight off of your shoulders.
Can you repeat the question?
Always. How do you hold yourself accountable?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I like what Manny said about mindfulness. Mindfulness is definitely dear and true to my heart. It's something that I practice daily along with meditation. So I think it was T that mentioned earlier, seeking, like, spirituality was important for them. And for me, spirituality is very, very important for me. And so that's part of my daily practices, is making sure that I am connecting to my human spirit. So, and I consider that like my highest self, because my higher self want all the good things for me and all the best things for me. And that's what I focus on, is focusing on the highest version of myself. And so another thing is also creating spaces and putting myself in connection with other people who are also healing and growing and loving and learning from each other. And this is what this is for me, connecting with these beautiful souls up here and all of you. you know, and staying away from, you know, things that just doesn't serve you. You know, I said earlier that I'm a survivor. No, I survived, and now I'm thriving. So now I'm living out of my joy, out of my happiness, out of my peace. I am creating scenarios and situations in my home life. It's so peaceful. Like my doggies, yeah, we a whole gang. I got two. We a whole gang. And sometimes, you know, like one of the things that I love to do is dance in my living room. Like I'm a baddie in my living room. You know, and just, you know, loving myself and feeling good in my body and validation. You know, you have to validate yourself a lot of times because you're not going to get that from a lot of times society. Social media, for example. How many of you know, yeah, social media is very cruel. They say some mean ass shit on social media, right? And so even apart from the mean shit they say, you still gotta say, that ain't shit, I love me. I love me some me. You know, you gotta just be able to gas yourself up, and it's okay. Give yourself permission to gas your own self up, because you deserve it.
How many questions?
Trinity, how do you hold yourself accountable?
Okay, there we go. I hold myself accountable from a plan because so there is no cure for what I have, right? So in my mind, I'm healing without a cure, and that's absolutely possible, right? Because I do certain things. So cycling is one, yoga is one. I don't do anything that I'm really not initially excited about, and stuff. And I hold myself accountable from Post-its and stuff. Like, so I know when I'm supposed to be biking. I know how many times I'm supposed to do it during the week. You know. So if I don't do it, then I look in the mirror and I, you know, hey, you slacked off a little this week. But bitch, get on it. Let's do it again. Let's try again next week, right? You know. And so and also affirmations on Post-its. I even do that still for my sons, right? If they're there, I stick Post-its. I love you. Have a great day. Testing is nothing. They should, you know, school is, you know, of the mind or whatever. So just motivating, and I hold myself accountable because there is a plan. So I know that if I don't do those things within that week, then I'm going to be off. I'm absolutely going to be off. And so with yoga, yoga and spirituality is interchangeable for me. And I use that as such. I make sure that I give offerings and speak to my ancestors because I'm convinced that our ancestors have a lot to do with the way we move in the world now, presently. Right? And so you only die when you're forgotten, right? And so I try to make sure that I remember my aunt, my grandmother and stuff, and in the way that I speak to them every day, you know? So I have altars and I speak to them every day, and that's how I hold myself accountable because it's a plan. There's a plan there, and if we're not following it, then we can't expect to you know, be accountable that way, you know? So that's how I do it.
Yes. So I began my journey of accountability with, first I had to do like a clearinghouse. So I had to look at my life, you know what I'm saying, around about 35. So I had to look at my life and say, you know, all these years I've been, you know, dealing with this low self-esteem, carrying around pain, trauma, all kind of stuff, toxicity in relationships, all kind of relationships failing. And I had to be like, you are actually a part of this scenario. It's not just happening to you, you actually the other person in this equation. And so I hold myself accountability through therapy, mindfulness, trying to be aware of how I'm affecting other people, aware that mental health affects everybody that's around you, not just you. Everybody goes through those symptoms with you. Learning how to articulate. And I was just a work in progress, right? know, I'm 30 years behind the game, trying to cure 30 years worth of crap on your head, you know. But I think mindfulness is one of the, one of my theories my therapy is mindfulness was the biggest part, and I never realized in my life how much I looked. I think we talked about this. So the future or the past. I didn't take time to cultivate my present, and that's where I'm at right now in my life.
How I hold myself accountable as well is in my mid-30s, I learned that I was a brat, right? And I will always lead with emotions, right? Lead with emotions all the time. It's either if you did something to me or I did something to you, I'm gonna have my way, right? Then I noticed that I had to learn about emotional awareness and emotional intelligence. And then at that point, it was like nasty because I was pointing the finger back at me. And I didn't like that. I was like, you do this, you do that, like shut up. So I had to like self-check and regulate that part of my brain that wants to fight all the time, you know, because it's the PTSD from the hurt, right? Because now I'm here always on the defense, and that's when I noticed I was always on the defense. And I'm like, why am I always upset? And everybody would tell me, I'm like, that's because I'm defending myself because of your tone. There was no tone. It was all in my head. And even if it was a tone, I took it out of context because I was still healing. To me, everybody was against me. So then once I learned about emotional intelligence and holding myself accountable, it was a wrap after that. They didn't have me no more. So yeah, point your exactly.
Share.
So I spent a lot of my years like blaming other people, like blaming the kids that made fun of me or whatever, blaming the adults for, you know, being fucking blind to the fact that, you know, this child is being bullied. Just blaming everybody but me. And I don't know, it took a long time to kind of like sit back and realize that, you know, I'm also a part of this equation. It can't be that everybody's just doing everything to me. You know what I mean? And I'm not doing anything. If anything, I'm allowing stuff to happen to me, or I'm allowing myself to implode because I'm not telling people how they're treating me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not speaking up or whatever. So one thing I do to hold myself accountable is I go to the media. You know, I talk to myself, especially like driving and stuff like that. You know, I told you I do the voice notes, you know, to myself while I'm cussing people out. You know what I'm saying? I'm half cussing people out in the voice notes, and I'm like, well, you allowed them to do this because you didn't say this when it happened or whatever. So some of the time, I want to say probably about 60%, 70% of the time, it's something I didn't do that that's causing me to be upset with somebody else when it was something I could have fixed originally. So I ask myself a lot of questions, like, why are you upset right now? What happened? I'll give you like a short example. They moved my truck at work, and they like got in. I don't know if y'all have any truck drivers in y'all family and stuff like that, but it's like, you know, that's your home on wheels and shit. So, you know, you got somebody moving your stuff, and it's like they got in your house, and I noticed that they knocked something over and they didn't put it back in my seat or whatever. So I steamed on that for like 2 days. You know, and something, I happened to be in like a training class or whatever, and the guy was like, and we was talking about something else totally different. He was like, if something angers you and you wake up the next day and you still thinking about it, like you let it sit for a day and you still thinking about it, something needs to be said. You know, so I had to take that. It was just confirmation. I don't know. I feel like the universe just kind of gives me confirmation in different things or whatever. Like, I'm going through this, I'm steaming on this, and then we talking about something else, and he like, yeah, if you mad about something, you should say something. So, you know, I had to have a conversation with somebody the other day or whatever. But then it kind of got blew off anyway, so I kind of feel like maybe I was mad for, you know, I spent all that energy being upset, and then it was, you know, nothing to them, you know. So, yeah.
Accountability is a daily practice. So how do you fill your own cup? And I also, as you answer this, you know, sometimes money is funny. So I also want you to highlight some non-monetary ways that you can fill your own cup. Tell me.
Yes. So one of the ways that I fill my cup is I do a lot of journaling. I take time out from my phone, social media, a lot of times outings, like I need a lot of alone time, and that's something that I realized about myself later in life, that I needed time, apart because I'm an empath, so empaths typically pick up on everything. You gotta also protect your energy as an empath. So I have to separate myself, not isolate or, like I'm not depressed, right? So it's just more so like, okay, let's get with yourself. Let's see how you feel. Ask yourself, do you really like this person or not really? And then just keeping it real. Like being real with yourself in that way. Okay. What was the question? Okay. How do you feel about cup? Okay. Yeah, okay. You get up here and it's like your headlights. Okay, so another thing, I fill my own cup. My journey of weight, someone mentioned weight earlier, and that's definitely something that I've been working on, making sure I stay active, making sure I'm grounding. I actually like to, a lot of times, take my shoes off and put my feet in the grass because, the earth has those, a lot of people know that now, that like the earth has electrical impulses, and those impulses from the earth actually corresponds with our bodies in a positive way, so it kind of like neutralizes us. So when we are feeling anxious and uptight and irritable, it's a great way to go outside and spend like maybe 20 minutes outside in the sun or in the grass. Another thing that I do is I like to hug trees. Y'all, and I don't care how silly it looks, like, because I know the benefits of hugging a tree, like God, whatever you believe in, divine source, energy, put everything here for us to our benefit and to also benefit the earth. So I definitely connect with nature. That's a big part of who I am today. And I will hug the tree. It's like 1 million people in the park. I don't care. I will go over to that tree and just spend some time with it. And, tree hugging actually decreases a lot of anxiety, depression. What is the other thing? It also helps with stress management. Look it up, y'all. Look it up. Google it, for real. I researched it, but yeah, it's real. It's for real. Like that tree out there. Yeah, I love that tree. So yeah, I'm talking like this and it sounds silly, but it's like that's my heart, and that's how I fill my cup. And I'm talking my shit. And it's so many things. So another thing, I listen to affirmations. I speak my own affirmations. So sometimes, if, I don't know, maybe I feel a little insecure about a session, or I feel insecure about something that's coming up like this. And I just start walking around just talking my shit, saying things, speaking to myself. Because if you don't speak life to yourself, who will? You have to speak life to yourself. So I make it a practice to, and I think I said that earlier too, we really have to get better at our internal jargon or our internal dialogue, what we tell ourselves. I know for me, because I'm analytical and I had a tendency to overthink about everything, I had to make sure that I was deconstructing the negative thoughts that I had about myself. I had to pull those down, and I think Manny mentioned earlier, catching the thoughts, catch yourself. So sometimes when I'm hard on myself, I'll get the thought and I say, no, it's okay, internet. You just made a mistake, and it's okay to make mistakes. We're human. So something like that, So just reframing and being mindful of how you speak to yourself is so important.
I'll take it. Yeah. How come my own cup? Meditation is really good. A lot of times people can't sit with themselves, but that's where you learn. A lot of times people think that you have to be with other people because that's the crave, right? That having self-love is from the craving of somebody wanting you and all that good stuff, right? So at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you do things that bring you joy. It could be anything small, it could be something big, and it doesn't have to cost money. There's a lot of sites, there's Eventbrite, you can buy tickets for nothing, not reserved, you have to put your information in, There's a lot of free stuff, there's a lot of yoga and meditation in the parks for free. There's a lot of resources within your city, within your family, wherever that is. There's no money to provide that for yourself, to fill your own cup. There's always a sale somewhere and everything. So a lot of times you don't need money to fill your cup. You just have to find what brings you joy in order to put in that cup, so you have a good foundation to give to everybody else.
How do I fill my cup? I think I deal with more so, because my cup is overflown. How do you say that? Overflown. That's right? Oh, okay. Most of the time, right? Because I work in a nonprofit, public arts organization right across the street. And I also, so I'm around a lot of art every day and around a lot of people every day. I also live there, so I get that every day. So I have find that when I get off of work, I need just me, you know? So I'm doing that a lot. It's just me, because I get stimulated at work, you know? And I got this person who needs this and this person who needs this, and then I just seen the art of this person and it was, you know? So it's like, or somebody's even perception of the art and the way they seen it, you know? So I get over full a lot, and I have to remember that at the end of the day, either when I'm cycling, I'm in the zone. It's you know, I'm in a zone, I'm going, you know, can't walk after I do that cycling, but I got it. And so, and sitting with myself and my dog. Like, I have a service dog, and I believe that dogs offer something that people cannot.
Yes.
Dogs are capable of unconditional love. I don't think humans are so much. So, because if I get mad at my dog, she don't give a damn. 5 minutes later, she's doing what she needs to do and what she's supposed to do, what she always does. She's not gonna get mad and be like, "Oh, I'm not doing it because I don't feel like it."
Right.
Right? So it's never that, and I never have to deal with that. So at the end of the day, I like it to be just me and a dog. And give me a porch, maybe. Give me a porch. And then, you know, so yeah, that's how I think my cup stays kind of full, and I have to regulate it sometimes, because it's too much sometimes. Yeah.
The ways that I fill my cup, I also journal. I love to provide myself with beautiful experiences, and with grounding experiences. Grounding for me is yoga, shower, do the dishes every day, and lemon water. I know, I don't like doing the dishes, period, but I get them done in the morning, so that way it's just done. But I want to reiterate something that you said earlier, which was, you know, the best way to show up for others is by showing up for yourself.
Right.
And that is not inherently selfish, and at times it can be, but it's necessary. And I want to add, I'm just losing my train of thought, that, sorry, what was the question?
Oh, how do you fill your own cup?
Yes, so, like I said, beautiful experiences. And I'm getting a little nervous, so I'm just gonna pass it for now. And then I'll just
That's all right. Sure.
I kind of see why as a kid I was athletic and stuff. Like, I kept myself in sports and all that, and I was going through a lot of shit during that time, you know. But I didn't realize how important, I guess, physical activity is for us or whatever. Like, it is a stress reliever. So I don't do it as often as I used to or whatever, but when I was riding my bike around the neighborhood and stuff like that or whatever, when I was walking around the neighborhood, you know, that was doing something for me. I didn't even realize it. You know, I'll put a podcast on or whatever, and it's just, I'll bike I get off work at 5 in the morning, and I would bike around my neighborhood or whatever, just, you know, for a good 30 minutes or so. And I didn't realize how, I guess, comforting that was, you know. I also do the voice notes. Like I'm really selling these voice notes. I mean, you know? No, a lot of it is me talking to myself and stuff. It's not I told you, it's like 40% of me cussing other people out.
Right,
And
yourself.
then like, you should have did this, and that's really your responsibility. So it's like, you know, when we talking in the living room, we was talking about how, when you run out of people to blame, then all that's left is yourself. So, you know, but riding bikes, walking, I noticed that, it is something about nature. Like, I've stayed in Galveston for like 2 years. I was like a 5-minute walk to the beach. I would go do that, and I'd be at the beach probably like a good, you know, about 2 hours and stuff like that, just hanging out. We've been camping a lot lately or whatever. I enjoy that. And I journal from time to time and stuff too or whatever. And another stress reliever is, I started like gaming not too long ago or whatever. I used to game when I was a kid, but recently I really got into it, and sometimes I want to come home and the story I told you earlier, that was a come home and play Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying? So you can take that stressful day out on everybody else. You know what I'm saying? When you shoot, you know, like, yeah. So yeah, those are some ways.
I just want to clarify what I was saying. Gaming, right? Okay, I thought you said ganging. I was like, that's not filling up your cup.
What y'all heard? Y'all heard gaming or gaming?
Okay, it was just gaming.
So, first and foremost, prayer. And secondly, God, you know, like anything to do with spirituality is my number one way to try to fill my cup. Trying to make sure I keep my spirit in line and don't let the world change me. Then I'd say I go to music. I love music, and I look to music like poetry. So I dissect the song down to whatever the lyrics are, and try to, you know, I look at it like a poem. And recently I've been trying to be more purposeful with what I allow inside my mind and what kind of music I'm putting inside myself. So I've been really listening to this artist called Londrell. Anybody ever heard of him? Trying to raise my vibration and just concentrate on, you know, getting more in touch with my spirituality. And lastly, I love, it might be a little, I don't know, called grilling or whatever, but I found something some years ago. It's like a little wax burner thing, and a hot plate, and you get these little wax cubes from Walmart.
Oh,
you gotta
yeah.
get the home and garden one. These things are fabulous. You know, I just go with everything.
All right. Last question, panel. So, advice for the people in the room, the folks who are eventually going to be watching at home, or you can even speak to a younger version of yourself. How do you start? How does one start loving themselves? And I love for everybody on the panel to answer.
I'm giving advice to everyone, including myself. No, I think around self-love, a lot of times we concentrate on the lack, not on how you can get it. And a lot of times we have to know that you build community. Go to your neighborhoods, wherever that may be, the church, the community centers, this group, you know what I mean? Find what that is and just know it's going to change. It's going to change regardless of what you like or not. Your best friends, you're going to lose a lot of people, but you always have to make sure that the people you're bringing in is adding to your tribe. Adding and depositing information that you're going to use later on, because a lot of times these people are lessons. So build community, know it's going to change, protect your peace, emotional awareness, and stay on business when it comes to yourself.
So I do have advice for my younger self. I give her now a lot of love because she is still a part of me. And this may be for the audience as well. So I would tell little Antoinette, me. I used to be called me. My mom called me me. Me. You are enough. No matter what you go through. Don't allow people or things to determine your worth or your value. You can take up as much fucking space as you need and as you want. It's okay for you to speak. It's okay for you to be seen. It's okay for you to be heard. It's okay for you to be you.
Advice. So would be to remember to give yourself grace. It is not easy to love yourself in the way that is needed. So give yourself grace. Also say don't sleep on the arts. It's very, very powerful. Whichever branch or however, whatever arts you're drawn to, lean into it. Really lean into it. After diagnosis, art became a must for me. I had to get it off of me, you know? So yes, don't underestimate that. And last but not least, I don't believe in healed, right? Healing is a constant, okay? There's never a finish, because everything's ever changing, and you're gonna have to learn to love yourself through different things. The world changes every day. Everything changes every day. So love yourself through the change, and remember that healed is not a thing. Healing is a thing, right? So I don't have a desire to be cured because I'm ever constantly healing, and that is okay.
Yeah.
I want to offer a few things. You cannot shame yourself into evolution and growth. You have to love yourself into it. And let's say maybe you can, but it's not very sustainable, because then you've done everything you thought you needed to do and you're still crying in the shower, you know? Every day. I also want to say, don't wait for the weight loss to start living your life. Don't wait for when everything's together, then it's officially over for you. It's like, no. It's over for you now. It's over for y'all now. So don't wait. And yeah, just what better place than here? What better time than now? Amen.
Give it to him, Sherry.
Don't stop. Come on now.
See, I don't know if I can repeat my performance and stuff like that. Huh? Yeah. So, yes, you did. Speaking to my younger self, I was really like worried about everybody else but myself. So one thing would be 20-year-old Sherry would be like, stop living vicariously through your friendships. Like, bruh, you got a whole fucking life. You know what I'm saying? Stop chasing after these women. Because that's all I cared about in my 20s was like the next girl. That's all I cared about. And looking good in front of like my stud bros. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I really, man, I be giving my 20-year-old self hell. Like, you know, this is why I'm like this or whatever. You know, your shit, why didn't you finish school and you were skipping class and all that? Now we got all this debt, you know, and all this stuff.
Speak to her.
Yeah. But I have to also realize that she didn't have the support and the guidance that she needed. Like, I wanted to go to the military and stuff. I didn't have anybody that was like, yeah, you should go. You know, I was just expected to figure it out because of who my mom was. My mom was an alumni at TSU. She had a master's and stuff, and then, you know, she passed, but, you know, at 40, 41. So yeah, I was expected, as me and my sister, we were expected to go to school and stuff. That we were gonna do. And then I realized that, you know, that's not what I want. You know, I want to be a mechanic and stuff because I like using my hands and stuff like that. That's why I was an athlete. You know, so another thing would be like, figure out what you really want to do. You know, don't think about, oh man, you know, my mom or my dad would really want me or my family and all this other stuff, because when it comes down to it, like, you're gonna incur all this student debt, and then you thinking that the government gonna pay for it, and then they gonna rule it inconstitutional to like pay your debt back. You know what I'm saying? So you relying on other people to work stuff out for you or whatever, and really you need to figure out what you want. You know what I'm saying? So figure out what you want in your 20s or whatever.
Yeah. I'm trying to. The question.
Alright, T, what's the advice that you have for your younger self?
Well, I'm gonna leave that more alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I am gonna address, and I think this goes for masculine and feminine dynamics within our community to a certain extent. I don't know, but I grew up as coming out in 1997. So I was 18 years old. So I don't know how it is now because, like I said, I'm not really immersed in the dating world and all this other stuff. It's online and everything else. But when I was coming up, you met a girl, you liked her, maybe about a week later you were living together. You were in a full-blown relationship.
Lesbian liars.
So I would say to maybe either side, like I said, but from a masculine center perspective, it's okay if you don't do that. Take your time. Get to know her. Still build your throne. You know, follow your dreams, pursue your goals. You know, because some of those relationships we're stumbling through, we don't have anyone to really tell us how to navigate those relationships. And when they end, a lot of times it's you packing your bag as a masculine person and going on rebuilding, and then rebuilding again, and then rebuilding, because if we have our pride, you know, we're not gonna, you know, be like, oh, get out the house, we're gonna leave and we're gonna go try and rebuild somewhere else. And every time you do that, you look like you're in a state of dishevelment, right? Instead of building your throne, standing on who you are and letting someone come to you and value you for who you are inside. Because a lot of times I would say, like, I would be in those relationships, and like 6-8 months later, I was like, I don't even like you. I don't even know who you are. Like, you're not even the same person I met. But I moved in with you like after a week.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, this so, like, I had to, like, at a certain point in my life, like, I've been single for 4 years. Like, I you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to live with you. I want to build, and if it comes together, great. If it doesn't, okay, we can be mutually, you know, adult about it. But I want to have my throne. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would give you.
All right, and that's a wrap for our panelists. Audience, please snap it up for them. So we will have Q&A. We're gonna get the mic set up in the back. If you do feel compelled to ask a question to the panelists, please feel free to use the mic. Go ahead, guys.
Be nice.
Don't be nice to me. I was 50. You asked me to prepare to ask a question. Yeah. Get an answer.
Hello, panelists. Thank you so much for sharing all of those really vulnerable insights. It truly meant a lot to me, and I learned a lot from you all as well. So my question, a lot of times they say one of the essential parts of healing yourself as an adult is getting in touch with your inner child. So what were ways that you did find joy as a child, and do you emulate any of those things now as an adult? Thank you.
Great question. Okay.
like to do as a kid was, play with my Barbie dolls, get dressed up, makeup. I used to do like a lot of creative play. So I feel like I really tap into my inner child. I have a goddaughter. She's so sweet. Her name is Sonia. She's 6 years old. And so whenever she comes over, me and her, like, we rolling around on the floor, we playing dress up, we dancing, we doing our own karaoke show. Like, she really helps me really tap into my inner child. And also, like, for me, it's important for me to make sure that I am incorporating play in my life all the time. I love to play. I like to laugh, y'all. Like, come on, laughter is good for the heart. It's like medicine to the soul. So I love to laugh. I like to tell jokes. I like to keep the humor going. Sherry is very funny, so I appreciate her being on this panel.
Yeah, the way I noticed this question came up at work the other day, and somebody told me, "Oh, get this guy anything Dragon Ball Z because he loves it. You know, he's a kid." And I'm like, don't be judgy. Just because we have the money now to get the things our parents didn't get us, you can't judge. We're gonna get it now. I don't care how childish it is. Whatever it is that you get. And I also saw a video of a grandma getting like a doll that she always wanted. So when she was crying, I cried. Because I know the feeling, something that you want, but you're giving to everyone else but yourself. And then somebody, she's still selfless because she's not giving it, she gives it to the family. So I feel like little things like that, buying things that you know you wanted, and things like that, it helps a little bit, and, be nice.
I know that in the last few years, I started doing things that I always wanted to do as a child. So, like, I was really mad at my mom for not continuing to take me to ballet classes. So I tried out ballet classes. They have some strong ankles, and I just don't like those ankles. It was nice that I gave it a try. I tried being in a choir. I did that for about 6 months. That was really fun, and that, because when I was younger, I was in orchestra and was misplaced in the choir, and because of how I was thinking, I was like, oh, I have to go back to orchestra, and I regretted that. So I tried out the choir for a little bit, found it was not for me, but it would have been, like, ballet and choir would have been for me when I was a little kid, and I love that for little me. But also just, like, listening to yourself on little things, like, once I got a cut on my finger a few months ago, and I would often ignore my own needs, but then one day, when I got that cut, I was like, inside I wanted to put on a Band-Aid, and I kept talking myself out of it, and then eventually I put on the Band-Aid, and then something really healed inside me, And then the other thing I want to share on just inner child work is that in 2022, I had a really powerful journaling session that I thought I needed psychedelics for, but I just, I realized through that journaling session that there's an energy inside of me that I'm still working to let go of, but it's everything that no longer serves me. And that energy surrounds my inner child. It's the ways in which I have disordered eating. It's my mental health issues. It's SI. It's all the things that no longer comfort me, got me through those times, but no longer serve me. And little by little, I've been able to let some of those things go. I'm currently working through food, but have let go of quite a few of those vices that were within that energy.
So we're talking about childhood things, that inner child stuff, right?
So yeah, the question was, what were things that you did as a child that brought you joy, and do you emulate any of those things as an adult?
Okay, short answer, yes. But for me, I think it's easy because I have children. So I do children's stuff through them. And I have a good excuse to do it. I'm still trying to figure out how I birthed one and ended up with 3. That's a whole nother subject. So yeah, and I still have one at home. So I do find myself like playing but not playing with him. I've upped my nerve game a lot. Now I got the battery operated one because he's a teenager and it hits harder. Right? So I'm playing, but he better not play with me. So yeah, that's what I do. And I know I often every couple of years, I do feel the need and urge to write a letter to my inner child. And I learned that through therapy when I was little. Like I said, my family, I come from a drug family. So I found Al-Anon and AA and NA and all that stuff for support when I was younger. And so through all of that, that's one of the practices I did keep up. Every now and then I have to write a letter to my childhood self. Most of the time it's like, forgive yourself for what you didn't know. But yeah, so that's how I do that, and I use my children as an excuse to play. And my dog too, because I play with her, but you know, she's not as playful.
Take naps, y'all. Like, we do not rest enough, especially as adults, and like the hustle culture. You know, we have to like go, go, go. Now I take a nap. And also doing things like having hobbies that you are not trying to monetize. Just do it for the joy of doing it. Everything don't have to make $1, it just gotta make you happy. Go ahead.
Like I stated before, whatever, when I am physical, I used to love riding my bike when I was a kid. So that was cool. I used to love playing basketball when I was a kid, man. Like playing out in the middle of the street and stuff like that. I still like riding my bike. You know, that's still something. I want to get in better shape to where I can play basketball again. I kind of feel like in my 40s, I shouldn't wait, but it's like I want to be in basketball shape again, like at least in my 40s. You know, to where I can play like in an adult league or something like that. What's that?
Except she gonna wait till she's 40 to play.
No, I'm saying basketball shape. Like I want to be in basketball shape in my 40s. Oh, it's been going down. It's killing it. Yeah. So, yeah. Y'all distracted. One thing I do now that I used to love doing as a kid is I remember when I bought my Switch, I felt guilty. Like, why am I spending $300 on this game? You know, and then it's one of the best purchases I ever freaking bought. Yeah, and along with my laptop. Like, me charging my card for like $1,400, I was like, what am I doing right now? You know, you sure? You know, so one thing I do is I play Call of Duty. Like that's my toxic trait too, because you gotta submerge yourself in a toxic ass environment with all these guys saying a bunch of stupid stuff or whatever. So y'all should hear me. It's pretty bad, but it's only in that fantasy world, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's what I do. You know?
Do we got time for one more question? All right, do we have another question in the audience? Don't be shy, y'all.
So all of you shared so openly and freely, and we gained so much from it. I want to know what inspired you to share so freely with us, and what did you want us to walk away with today?
Wow. I will say that my motivation is always to challenge people's perceptions. And like I said, I work right across the street at Project Row House, and I speak about art all the time. And like I said, healing without a cure, that's just what I lean into, and really believe that it's possible, you know? So yeah, I hope that answered your question. That's why I'm willing to be so exposed and vulnerable, because I do want to challenge people's perception, and to, if there, one day, one of you guys might come across somebody that's going through chronic illness diagnosis and stuff, and you know, it's hard to believe something that you can't constantly see, right? So I have to often give people some room, because like I said, even for my kids, my parents, people I see every day, it's really hard for them to consider what they can't see all the time, right?
That's a great question, actually. So for me, I've shared so freely because I know that there's power in vulnerability, and I know that on this healing journey, we don't talk about the things enough. I think that we get silenced, which I felt silenced a lot in my journey. So being able to express some of my story is very healing for me, and my hope is that it will be healing for others.
And for myself, like I've done a lot of therapy, done a lot of group therapy, and really love those spaces of sharing. And while this isn't necessarily therapy, reiterating what's been said, it's therapeutic, and just being able to, hopefully that some of you have seen something or heard something that maybe you didn't know you needed to hear, and that's also a big motivator. So just thank you guys for also coming here and being open to hearing us out as well.
I basically want to do this because a lot of times I see, sometimes I see panels and films, but I don't always see a lot of panels with masculine and women, and I don't see a lot of panels or discussions where we're both together, discussing issues as we're going through the same struggles. We might look different, and I'm talking about femininity and masculinity in any of its presentations in any society, right? The struggle is similar. We're both fighting against the same things. We might look different, but we're dealing with the same oppression. And I see a lot of, I don't see the cohesion that I sometimes want to see from the feminine, and I'm speaking solely right now about lesbians. I can't really speak about everybody because I'm a lesbian, but sometimes I don't see. Well, some people might still think I'm trans, so I'm not. I'm a lesbian, but some people, I don't see a lot of times femmes and I don't want to say some studs, whatever you want to call it. I'm butch, but stud women, masculine set of women, interacting and sharing and speaking about the issues that affect us both as a community. And historically, if we look back in history and we knew how profound, lesbian in history anyway, how profoundly the femme was so vital to the butch existence in our past, historically, you would be able to see how the dynamic is totally different right now. The support system that the femme provided for the masculine set of woman who cannot blend, who is essentially basically the face of our community. Because unless you, as a feminine woman, make yourself visible and known, we look like the lesbian community. And as such, we take a lot of that weight on us. And I'm glad to do it. And actually I have no choice who I am. But I would ask that feminine women, when you're in a relationship with a masculine set of women, and you see that she's struggling financially, you know that there's so many barriers that are being placed in front of her that she's struggling through. And just like the feminine woman must go to work and smile through that. Issues with going to the bathroom in the workplace. Issues with being, discrimination, outright statements. People just show they hold this thing. And I have to smile. I'm not allowed to lash out. So, I said it to say that I'm here because I want to make it known the issues that masculine women deal with and start to be more vocal about it so that there can be application for it.
So I want to piggyback off of you real quick. There isn't enough representation of us as a whole, and there definitely is a slim chance to none that we have any representation. So I jumped at the opportunity to be a part of the panel or whatever, because I mean, not only that, but it seems like when we do have spaces for queer people and lesbians or whatever to do things like this, it always centers around like relationship shit, like all the time. It's like we have other stuff that we can talk about this, you know, besides like, you know, being what, heteronormativity and shit like that, you know what I mean? Like there's other stuff that we care about, like, you know, our childhoods and, you know, the stuff we picked up on and all this, and, you know, the political climate in the world and stuff like that. People act like we don't care about other stuff that's going on around us besides, oh man, you know, she doing this and cheating and all this other type of stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so that's one reason why I'm here, and for the community, you know. And I appreciate y'all showing up and selling us out and shit. That's crazy. You know? Y'all appreciate it.
Yeah, let's get it.
I want to piggyback on everybody too, right?
No.
All right, yes, we are. I'm here being, I can't even say the words. There you go, that one, because A, I love to talk. And I love to learn and educate. And I wanted to make sure that not only are we a voice for Black and brown queer people, but we're a voice for all, because a lot of times, like you said, it's mostly about relationships. Like, what happens to the people that are single? We're going to talk about them. So we got to talk about things that affect us now, and that's self-love. And if we can educate ourselves because we grew up in a similar household, because the mentality was there, regardless. If you're Black and brown, the mentality is something that is passed down. So if you work through that, and you're showing yourself to teach another person of your same background to deal with the things unlike their parents, then I want to be part of that break of that generation.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's why I'm here. And I'm queer.
So the idea for Lez Talk really was born along with Lez Do Houston. There's a quote in your program that says, like, you cannot learn to love yourself in isolation. And I take that to mean it's like we need a reflection of ourselves in a positive light in order to begin to love ourselves. And when I started learn that I was gay, I learned, how to be gay watching YouTube, watching the L Word. But they didn't look like us all the time. And a lot of those shows were it's relationship stuff, but I gotta find a girl first. And so I wanted to showcase the diversity and breadth and beauty of us and our stories. So we appreciate you guys for asking that question, showing out, selling us out. This cast for being so open and vulnerable today, and thank you guys as well. And that's a wrap on the first one.